Hello and welcome to the On Pointless Podcast. I'm your host, Curt. We're here for another week of hypothetical questions. So to start off with, our intro question for this week is, if you could own any movie prop, what would you pick? Claire?
Probably Hermione's necklace, the little turn.
Oh, the time turner?
Even though I couldn't technically use it, I just think it would be a cool necklace to wear. And then for anybody that I met that wasn't into Harry Potter, it would just be like a good icebreaker always. So that would be mine.
Brian?
I ended up on the bunny costume from Donnie Darko because I figured anything cool like a tank or an X-Wing or something like that would just be a burden to me in my life to move with me, so I stuck with the bunny costume.
That makes sense. Then you could stare yourself in a mirror and pretend to poke yourself in the eye with a knife.
I could do a lot of things, honestly.
And Chara?
I would get, I forget the name, not the R2-D2, but the new one. The
Oh, BB-8?
BB-8, yeah. Because they actually did a physical one and just a remote control. I think it'd be funny. It's cute.
And me personally, my first thought was the golden gun from the James Bond movie, The Man with the Golden Gun. Because it's like a 3-part little thing and it's made of gold and it looks really cool.
I'd like to point out that I was planning on I was thinking of the golden Desert Eagle or the golden AK from Lord of War. But then I decided that if they didn't shoot, people would just think it was like a tinny dollar store toy gun.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough. Okay, now that we've got to know our guests a little bit better, let's move on to the first question. Our first question this week, you have to build a treehouse, but you're only allowed to use one non-powered tool. Which tool do you think would make it the easiest?
Hammer.
You're saying a hammer?
Yeah. What else would you use?
I mean, a hammer is super important for sure because you need something to connect all the boards with nails. But if you have a hammer, you can't cut down the boards or change the size of them.
We can use the other side of the hammer to like pull the nails out and retry.
That's true. The hammer does give you 2 tools in one there, so that is pretty useful. Whereas
In and out.
Yeah, whereas like a saw only has one function. And I mean, maybe you just build a treehouse in the proportions of the boards you already have.
I think the obvious answer is like an axe with a big square back. Kind of like a sledgehammer style axe, because then you can just use the back as a hammer and then you can cut wood.
Oh.
So
That's a good idea, yeah. I mean, I guess that makes sense that they used to build log homes with axes. So, because I was thinking, like, if you didn't have nails, you could use, like, twine or some, like, really good string to fasten everything together, like how they build stuff in the jungle with those, like, tree fibers.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how much you'd need to cut the boards down. It depends how consistent your supply of lumber is.
Do you have to find your own lumber? Or are you in the woods trying to find your own, to fell a tree, chop it down, make your own tree house?
I guess if you were, then the axe would be definitely the thing
Yeah.
you would need for that.
Yeah.
Totally.
axe is useful too. Like if it was like a 4-pound or 6-pound head, like you can bang nails easily with like a 6-pound sledgehammer with one hand. So you just think of turning the axe around. And you have the flat blade of the axe too, like the flat of the blade.
Yeah, you can
Be
like
easy.
try and lift nails that way too.
Oh
if
yeah, you
need.
can pry with an axe too.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a pretty useful
I feel like
tool.
you're more likely to like cut yourself that way, but
Yeah. It's not
No.
ideal,
as a
but you have
squeamish
to.
person, I'm still going with the hammer.
Yeah, the hammer is the easiest one to do the least damage to yourself with. I mean, if you're talking of an axe, a saw, or a hammer, I might break a finger with a hammer, but I'm not going to lose a hand with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has anyone here ever built a treehouse?
No.
No.
Me and Jeff Lewis did. You know, like his big 2 trees in his backyard, like that were like 60 feet tall.
Oh yeah.
We built it was like 7-story complex. And the bottom stories were like actual wooden platforms with supports. And when you got near the top, it was like fishing netting, like doubled up that we nailed to the trees and would climb in like 30 feet up. It was super dangerous in hindsight, but we never hurt ourselves.
Did you hang out in it like all the time?
Yeah, because like the goal of the treehouse was to see how high we could get up in those trees.
That's cool.
Wow.
Parental supervision was not what it is now back in the 90s. So
Yeah.
you were allowed to do those kind of things because it was teaching you, life skills.
Right.
Whereas now it was teaching you how to die young.
Yeah.
I've only ever seen like 1 or 2 tree houses ever.
I had to paint a treehouse one time. That was a pain because it was like 30 feet up. So I had this giant pole and I had they didn't have proper tools. So it wasn't a telescoping pole. It was just like a pole with a paint roller tied to the end of it. And it kept just falling off. And then my paint roller would fall in the dirt and be full of dirt. And it was
Why don't you just climb up and paint from the opening?
because I didn't have a ladder to get any higher than the very bottom of it. I mean, I see what you're saying to paint from the opening, but then I'd be leaning on the opening, and now I'm like 30 feet up trying to do something dangerous, whereas I was just painting from the...
Is it really 30 feet up for a treehouse?
It might have been 20, but I don't know. I was young.
It feels high when you're up there.
Yeah, I'm scared of heights. I don't want to go higher than like 6 feet.
Yeah. If you're 15 feet up, you'd be surprised how far of a drop that looks like from 15 feet up.
Yeah.
Like,
So maybe it's not actually 30 feet. It was actually just 15 feet, but it felt like 30.
you always have to pretend it's taller than it is, though. Makes you feel better about yourself.
You're also where you stand. Like, your eyes are 5 feet taller than, or more than where you're actually standing too. So a fall always looks like an extra 5 feet big. The treehouse we built started, the first level was like 5 feet above his back neighbor's garage, which was like a 12-foot, 13-foot tall garage. So that's where level 1 started, was at 13 feet. So like it was, the top of the treehouse was taller than the top of his like 2.5-story house.
I feel like it's interesting that we associate with like a treehouse with like a certain age group. Like, imagine being an adult making this like legit treehouse. It'd be so fun.
Yeah, how
and
come
you could go hang and drink in and just chill.
How come adults don't have like treehouse
That's what
clubhouses?
I mean.
That would be great.
We like associate it with like you only do it when you're 10 and then they don't exist, which is just not how it should be.
Well, especially now, you can put like solar panels on the roof and make like a full-out like electrified house. I'd play video games in a treehouse. That'd be sweet.
A couple in Souk made one. They Airbnb it though. But yeah, it's got plumbing and everything.
You
Plumbing in a tree?
Yep.
Okay.
Plumbed treehouse.
Plum treehouse.
So our next question is a bit of a tricky situation. You either can't catch or you can't throw for the rest of your life. Which do you pick?
Can't catch.
Can't throw.
This is awful. I picked death almost.
I feel like catching, you can catch something to save your life. Like if someone's throwing a knife at you.
You can catch the knife?
If I have absolutely no chance of catching, it's a lot more dangerous than I might be able to catch it.
I guess so, but then you can't throw it back.
That's fine. I can just put it down and run away.
I think this question, it actually tells you a lot more about a person than you would think. Like, this is essentially, are you a giver or a taker? Like, are you selfish or giving? Because if I can catch, that means I'm saying, like, I'm the one that's going to put in the effort and walk every single thing to everyone else in my life. Whereas if I can throw, it's like, well, sorry, you're going to have to walk. You're going to have to carry that to me. I can't catch. Well, I'll throw it back, but like, I'm not walking to you.
It's interesting because throwing is a choice you always make, whereas catching isn't necessarily. Like, if someone throws something at you,
It's like nearly involuntary.
yeah, it's like you have to catch it. And you can't be like, don't throw it at me if they've already thrown it. Whereas you can decide to never throw a thing. So, like, if you decided not to be able to throw, you might be able to hide that your whole life. But if you can't catch, it's going to be very obvious the next time someone just goes like, oh, here you go.
Yeah, when we play catch with the ball, I just like keep my hands in my pocket and be like, don't throw it towards me. I'm not catching.
As someone that doesn't really care for or have ever been interested in sports in my entire life, I can't say it would be that big of a deal if I couldn't catch, because I'm never in a scenario where someone is like, catch this in my life. Like, nobody ever really does that.
When someone's like, oh, here's a pen. Here's my
that
keys.
Like doesn't happen as much as me throwing something, for example, like to an animal or just anything.
That makes sense.
I think throwing is much more useful. Catching is like, oh, I didn't catch it, you fumble or you're clumsy. There's other reasons. But if you don't throw, that's almost like if someone was asking you, throw this to me, and you just couldn't, that would be so weird. Like,
Yeah,
why?
You would be like, no, I'll hand it to you. And they'd be like,
But
what?
then it would
Just
become
throw
this
it to me.
thing. Yeah, no.
You can look so casual not throwing though. Like if like a foul ball gets hit to you at the baseball park and you're like, I'm not bending over to pick that up, and you just kick it to somebody, you know? Like, you're too good for that. You're too good. The throwing is beneath
But
me.
outside
like,
of sports, I think is more where I'm going. So what do
yeah,
you
well, the thing I was thinking was like how many, like I see a lot of people that can't throw to save their life anyways, so like they're not losing anything by choosing not being able to throw.
do you think you could game the system? Because you were talking about that, you could try to kick to someone. Do you think you could just get really good at drop kicking objects to people? So instead of throwing it, just like drop the apple and kick it across the room to the person?
That was absolutely my first thought. Like you could play in our football league and not be able to throw anything. As long as you can catch, you're all good.
Unless you're the quarterback. But I guess if you're the quarterback, you're screwed either way because you have to catch the snap and then throw the ball. So that's not going to work.
Okay, but if a cute dog comes up to you with a ball and you just don't throw it, like, that's not a good feeling.
I'm pretty sure you cannot throw a dog to a ball not throw a ball to a dog, and he gets just as much enjoyment because he just takes off either way. Like,
Yeah,
he doesn't
fake
know.
throw.
You fake throw, drop it on the ground, and kick it somewhere
that's
else.
mean.
You can kick it. You can probably use one of those plastic throwing arms too, because at that point you're not throwing anything. You're
You guys
just.
are evil.
I also wanted to point out we went to the baseball park to get hot dogs one day, and
Not to see the game, just to get hot dogs?
just to get
Yeah,
hot dogs, you know,
literally
and
just-
support the Rotary Club or whatever. But we got to that game, and those kids nowadays, they don't even throw the ball to each other. Like, they roll the ball to each other, but they all wear face masks to protect their faces. But they don't. The pitcher can't throw the ball past the plate, so no one can hit it anyways. And the kids don't throw the ball to each other; they roll it. So I don't know at what point the ball is going to take a vicious bounce and hit some kid in the face, but they're protected
They
either
look
way.
like, you know, like the old school braces at night where it's like a headgear
Oh,
thing?
yeah?
It looks like that. But there's never even going to be a chance that they get hit in the face, but they all wear it. It's insane.
I played baseball for a very long time, like 15 years probably. I don't recall ever seeing someone get hit in the face with the ball hard enough to do damage. Like, if you did it normally, like, went off your glove or you did something dumb, either way, it was a lesson. Like,
But
because kids
also
don't throw the...
catch it.
Yeah, you'd catch it. But, like, one of the things is if you put your glove in front of your face and then you can't see it and the ball hits you in the face, it never hits you hard enough because it's a kid throwing it to you. Like,
It'd be different if it was one of those machines.
pitching machines were scary as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, those things were... And the balls are harder that come out of a pitching machine. They're like a lacrosse ball. I would not want to take one of those.
Yeah, they're heavy. They weighed like 1.5 times as much as a baseball.
Yeah, and you do it in cold weather too, so the vibrations in the bat going through your hand hurt so much if you didn't hit it on the right spot.
I've never been against a machine.
They're awful.
But what you've just taught me is I'm just going to take that I can't throw, and then I'm just going to bring a pitching machine around with me absolutely everywhere I go. Oh, you want an apple? Here you go, 60 miles an hour. You were tasked with creating a new holiday. When is it, and how is it celebrated?
We have a stat day nearly every month.
June is the black hole.
So we need something in June.
There's not one in March either.
But March,
There
you
is.
can have
St.
Easter.
Patrick's Day, isn't it usually in March?
It's not a
It's
stat,
not a
though.
stat
Oh,
holiday.
sorry. I see.
Easter either falls in March or April every year, but one of those two doesn't have a stat. And June is the other one, you're right.
But it's a holiday, not necessarily a stat holiday, because St. Patrick's is a holiday, just not a stat.
But if you invent a holiday, are you going to invent a holiday that people don't get the day off for?
No.
I think a summer holiday is better than the March holiday. Like, you can just make more use out of a June holiday than you can on a March.
Yeah.
Maybe if Family Day didn't exist, then, you know, you'd be jonesing for a holiday pretty bad between February and March, but the way that it stands, I'm June.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
And-
Family Day's new, so since we have that, we don't need a February, March one.
So what would you
Barbecues.
celebrate in June then?
Myself.
A holiday for yourself?
For myself.
You're just going to call it Chara Day?
Chara Day. Yeah.
What if you-
Everyone's going to stay at home, going to be on their couches, eat lots of cotton candy.
So your typical weekend.
Yeah, pretty much. But enforced on everybody.
Ah.
And they know how great it is.
I would probably make something, I don't think a lot of people would do it just because people, but something where you had to do something that you've never done before. Like, it was a holiday that somehow made you go out and do something that you were, like, semi-scared of, like mountain biking or, like, ziplining or something like that, where you were, like, forced to go out and just do those things. And then people would end up kind of finding out that it's fun and they like it. Something that, like, forced you to do it. I know, like, it wouldn't happen, but in my perfect world, that would be, like, a really fun holiday.
Yeah.
And then it would cause lots of conversation. It would, like, open people up to a lot of things.
They're like, what are you doing this weekend? Well, I haven't been ziplining yet. And,
So
you
I gotta
know,
do that
I
on
have
the
to do
holiday.
it. It's try day. Gotta do it.
Yeah, something like that. I think that'd be fun. There'd be no way to make it actually happen. It just would be, in a perfect world, it'd be really fun.
I was going to say people can live to be like over 100 years old, and after like 100 holidays of doing something you've never done before, like at some point you get to killing another person. You know, like you run out of ideas and it's like, well, I haven't done this and I might like it. So I think that's a slippery slope.
Slippery
It'll
slope.
have some rules.
After 100, that's when you just go for murder.
So apparently there's less than 100 things to do in the world that don't involve murder, is what I'm hearing from
Well,
Brian.
after 90, there's no consequence to that sort of thing anyways.
Well,
you
yeah, I
know?
mean, you could just do that, though, as, like, the 90-year-olds, the new thing for all the 90-year-olds would get together and do, like, the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
And then all of them would do the same new thing at once, and that
Yeah.
would get rid of all the old people, and problem solved.
There we go. We just need a geriatric Hunger Games, and they kill each other because they're probably going to die anyway.
It would be so slow, though. Oh my god.
It would be painful to watch.
Yeah, time would be the biggest killer. I hope your grandma doesn't still listen to the podcast. See, the two I was thinking of. One, February 29th should be a holiday.
Why?
Because it happens once every 4 years. It's the rarest day of the year. Why isn't that a holiday?
If you waste my new holiday on a holiday that's only once every 4 years, I'm, as a government worker, I am not impressed.
Well, and that's, I'm not saying necessarily for this, but I've always thought that should be a holiday. But for this, it's one that Chris, who's on the podcast sometimes, has always said, is your birthday should be a stat. Everyone's birthday should be a day off for them. So it's a holiday that not everyone gets at the same time, but everyone gets their own birthday off.
There are people born on holidays already, though.
Well, then it would just shift to the next day.
It's like Christmas and
Oh, so you
Boxing
just
Day.
get,
You
like,
just
two.
get days off in lieu.
I
And
guess, yeah.
Then people born on Christmas would finally have an advantage because they'd get like 3 days off in a row around Christmas.
Yeah, instead of just it all lumping together. Yeah, that's a good point.
Because people born on Christmas, it's the worst.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's
I
like
can't
my brother.
imagine.
My brother and my grandmother.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, and
Do
then
you always just get them like one present, basically?
Pretty much. Well, we'd always go visit my grandmother and celebrate her birthday and kind of forget my brother. He'd get
Poor
it like
brother.
a small cake as well.
so we've got a new experience day, and then the exact opposite from Chara.
Yeah, stay at home, go on your couch.
And I'm saying, maybe your birthday. I don't know. I haven't really thought it through enough.
Now, are you doing the...
I've never celebrated a holiday properly, I don't think. So I don't really know what I would recommend for this June holiday. Like...
Mountain biking day? You'd hate that because everyone
I
would be
hate,
on
yeah,
mountain bikes.
that's actually the worst thing I can
Terrible.
imagine is people that don't know how to mountain biking on trails that I love and enjoy. That's
So it could be no one but me on the trail day?
something like
What if you just made it like trail building day? Everyone just had to
trail
build-
building day, that would be a good one if we
Oh.
all took time out of our days to go, not even necessarily trail building, but just like hobby
Hiking.
betterment day in a way. Like if you ride mountain bikes, go work on a mountain bike trail. If you like horses, go, I don't know, whatever they do to horses with like the big brushes, brush a horse. You know?
So basically, you're just saying like celebrate the community you're in day and support it, as opposed to just taking advantage of the community you're in. Not that that's what people do, but like do something to help build it and make it better.
Exactly, and it would be like a structured day where every type of community, like a mountain bike club or a trail running club or whatever, they would all have that like in the calendar, penned in dark ink. This is the day that we're having this 8-hour event, and you're expected to be there.
Yeah, don't ride a mountain bike unless you show up for mountain bike day.
Kind
hobby
of like voting day, how you are expected to go vote. Like that is your job kind of on voting day. It would be like you're expected as a mountain bike club member to go, unless you're also in like the horse brushing club and you have to do that instead.
So this next question was inspired by our guest Claire. You can be the best artist in the world at one specific thing. What is your muse?
Like, suddenly I can do sculpture. But it has to be specifically sculptures of naked
Owls.
women.
Yes, you can sculpt just naked women or just owls. You can only do one type of art and make one type of thing, but you are the best in the world at that.
Like the way I can only do a right eye, but not a left eye.
That's a really good question, actually.
It'd be really profitable, I feel like, to do like baby portraits in oil, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. If you could be the best in the world at portraits, especially of children, you would nail it. Or like graduation wedding photography, I guess, would actually be the...
I think, I honestly, just in my own experience of, like, what people have asked me to paint, I'm just going to go with animals as a general, like, just being able to look at any animal and paint it in acrylic, I'd pick. I think that would be the most beneficial because there's so many people that the minute their pet dies, they want a portrait. They want to remember it. Or even when it's alive, like, celebrating its life or death. I think pets and just animals in general, like, even, like, kind of like mystic animals and just, it doesn't have to just be
That makes sense.
your like typical animal, could be fantasy, anything like that. I think that would be so beneficial.
People
I
like
would do that.
animals over just like landscapes or something.
Yeah, like landscapes are cool, but I think if you saw like this epic, painting of like an owl in a forest, it would really stick with you because owls are so like mysterious. We don't get to see them a lot and they're so cool.
I have a rule in my life that any day you see an owl is a good day. That's just the rule of life. If
We
you see an
saw
owl,
one
it's a good day.
recently.
Well, he had a good day that day. That's how it works with
did.
owls.
Yeah, he flew around and then he stared at us for a while.
He was
when we
so
were hiking.
big. It was like crazy. Like,
Yeah, it was
how
a
big he was.
Yeah, I thought it was a eagle at first, just because the way that it moved through the canopy. I was like, oh.
You could like hear its wings. Like it was so loud.
Have you ever been dive bombed by an owl?
No.
It's a scary experience because they're completely silent on their way down, and then you just see, like, you feel something whoosh past your head, and then you see the biggest shadow ever move away, and it's like, oh god, what was that?
Yeah, I was biking home, and an owl dropped down right beside me on the path. I assumed it was catching something, but it was just kind of like, do-do-do-do, whoom. And it was pitch black, so I just saw it. I was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're silent and they're massive.
Yeah.
Okay, so acrylics of animals, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I could do animals too, if people love their animals, especially when they die. What if I just, like, was a really good taxidermist? And I just stuffed animals all day?
I think there's a lot of, like, rules, though, about that in general. Like, there's so many regulations and, like, things people won't do already. I think it would be too tricky. Like, portraits are just easier.
I also think people would prejudge you if your business card said world's #1 taxidermist. It would be like, there's something wrong with this guy.
Yeah, you would think they were a psycho, absolutely.
I can't
no
imagine...
person wants to do that.
I was going to say, I can't imagine any taxidermist that isn't actually a serial killer.
Yeah.
Or, like, grew up with a childhood of throwing cats in incinerators or, like, something.
Yeah, like
that's
it
not a
started
normal
slow,
man.
like, dunk a kitten in a puddle. And
They
then
wouldn't put it in an incinerator. They need to stuff it. They just put it in a puddle, right?
and watch it die, and then...
Let's change topics.
I don't know. I
Chara?
feel like sculpture is probably, like, marble sculptures are really hard to do. That's why, like, it was always, like, the greats, Michelangelo and all those people. It's so much time to master it. And, you know, that makes it look like silk or veils and stuff like that in it.
What would you sculpt?
I guess people like busts.
And you would basically always deal with very wealthy people that wouldn't mess around with you because who is just buying a sculpture? Like, what average human just buys a sculpture?
Yeah.
Nobody.
It's high commission, but I wouldn't have to put in the work of becoming a master. I would just be like, yeah.
Rich friends talk to rich friends.
Yeah.
You'd be loaded.
There we go. And I don't have to do, like, one a year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if mine's selfish or not, but mine is ice sculpture. I'd be the best ice sculpturist in the world. Because it would be like irony where I'm the best in the world and nobody can ever have my art. Like, no one can own it. They can have it, they can view it, they can adore it, but they can never really own it because it's eventually just going to melt.
It's very Banksy.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I guess my real answer, I mean, I was joking with the taxidermy thing, obviously.
Obviously.
But my real answer would be, if you've ever seen those live edge tables, like, it would be furniture woodworking, but I really like the furniture woodwork they do with, like, the epoxies mixed in and all the different colors to, like, take natural wood and then, like, make it kind of modern. I think I'd want to be the best at that.
Those videos are horrible on Instagram because they're clickbaity, but, like, not clicky. You just watch them. You watch them pour, like, the metallic resin into, like, the channels in the live wood or whatever, and it's awful because that's like one video that I'll stare at those on Instagram for like 20 minutes at work because it's so entrancing.
And it looks so cool and it turned out so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen it.
Well, that's like all my other art. If an implantable chip that contained all human knowledge became readily available to everyone, would you have one installed?
God, no, we live in like the best place in the world. So all the knowledge we're going to consume is from people in worse places with worse backgrounds than what we have.
Yeah, that's just like having the internet in your head. And the internet has lots of bad things on there.
Yeah, I'd say no. I think the human brain is already quite, like, fragile with things you don't want to experience or see, and lots of people handle it differently. I think tons of people would just not be able to deal with it.
Yeah, I'm happy to live in ignorance about some topics.
Yeah, see, so the downside would be, like, everybody else, well, everyone that have it installed would know everything. So when you're trying to figure something out, they'd already know it. But I agree with all of you. I'd say no. What's the point in life if you can't learn things and, like, do things and experience things? Like, if you already know everything, it's like...
There would actually be no what conversation could you even have?
Yeah, you'd just be like, hey, do you remember when that movie was made? Yeah, 1996. Yeah, I knew that too. It's like, what's the point of that conversation?
That's actually so weird to think about.
What do you want for dinner? You know what we're going to have. You know the items of our fridge.
It's
and the
true.
time we have to make it.
Yeah, it's true. It's like, oh, we already know all of the options and how to make all of them and how to do everything. You would never learn a new recipe.
Yeah.
But wait, no, on the, like, bright side you would, though, because you'd have all this access to all this knowledge. So maybe people would just be more independent and maybe less people would be together and they would just go on their life journey of, like, learning every piano, I don't know, song ever in every language because they can, but it would really isolate and polarize everybody, I think. So probably just no.
I guess it's true, though, because, like, if you have the knowledge, it doesn't mean you necessarily have the skill. I could know everything about playing the piano. I could know every note to every song. If I haven't trained my fingers to move properly, it doesn't mean I can do that. So that's a fair point.
Wouldn't you be able to grab the knowledge of how to get into the flow of knowing how to do it?
I think you still need some practice as well. Like,
But
you have the
you would have that, like, I feel like you would have that already in you. You'd be so excited to learn it because you have everything available.
You have the theoretical knowledge, but there's still some practical.
Like, there would be work, but it would be so enticing to just have it available right there and, like, okay, this is what I'm going to think about and this is what I'm going to learn.
That's true.
I can see it being isolating because you don't need to ask anyone for help.
Ever.
Right? You won't have any teachers. You won't have any coaches. You won't share your experiences because everyone already knows it.
I just thought of it when I initially answered, I was seeing it from the different perspective where it's like, I don't know what it's like to grow up in a war zone or see my friend get shot. And I don't really want to know what that feeling is like. I watched The Giver. I saw how that little kid cried once he lived through Vietnam for 5 minutes. You know? And I was like, I don't need that. But as far as knowing everything, it would just be boring. It's like if you played a video game and had everything unlocked like the day that you plugged it into your system and loaded it up, it would be horrible. Like, I want to I want to earn my cheat codes in GoldenEye, you know?
Now with games, now everyone reads the walkthrough. Walkthroughs ruin games. Like, when you were a kid and it's like, oh, I don't have to do this part, better look it up. So you're not playing a game. Unless you're playing it for the story, which is totally fair.
But you would know the story. That's the thing. Everything about books and movies and media is about the joy of learning the experience of the story. If I already know the whole story, I might not read it. I know how it ends.
I guess that's true. If a new movie came out, you could just be like, oh, let's just see what happened in that movie. And it'd be like, I instantly know everything that happens.
Pretty much you have the plot summary in your head right away.
Well, beyond that, you have the knowledge, the first-hand knowledge of the director or the writer or, the entire team of,
What if this could be the chip for something specific? Like, you got to choose what specific information you would have all knowledge about.
That's a good point.
I'd love to learn, every language. I think that would be so beneficial, just being able to have all the notes. Like, instead of buying Rosetta Stone or sitting and learning through a course, you just have it available. Something like that, if you pick, that's a good...
Like, instantly you know all languages. Instantly you know all mathematics. Instantly you know everything.
But only one.
Only one.
Yeah.
Once everybody knew all the languages, though, there'd be no need for any of the languages except for one. So it's kind of like a skill that self-cancels in a sense.
Yeah, but not everyone's going to have. You get to choose. There's an option of 10 chips. Which chip do you want? Do you want to have history? Do you want to have linguistics? Do you want to have geography? Like Trivia Pursuit. How many wedges are you going to get?
I would 100% take history if that was the question. Not personal experiences, because I wouldn't want the things like Brian talks about, but if you could know all of history, because that is so many stories and it's better than every movie. You could now be like, oh man, I should learn about the Battle of Hastings. I already know about it. You could think your way through the whole thing. Because I don't know anything about that.
But what about the visuals that a movie provides you with?
Well, but if you had the knowledge of it, you could kind of piece that together.
It'd be like reading a book.
I hate to be that person, but if you know everything about history, maybe you know nothing about creativity. You know the history side of it, but a movie brings you the pleasure of putting it together in an appealing way.
It does.
Different perspectives.
I just feel like that's... Characters. Are you sure?
But if I'm taking this chip, right, that means I'm still myself, and then I'm adding that on. It's not like I was born knowing all of history, so I still have a personality, and I'm still a person.
So I thought you meant you have one thing that you're basically good at, and you're bad at the rest.
No, tomorrow we have this new chip that you get to choose from. Instead of it being all knowledge of all the world, we have something more specific where you can choose history, you can choose linguistics, you can choose. I don't know what you would choose.
I want to sing like Drake and dance.
So you
Drake chip.
Okay.
And dance like him, so you don't really need a big chip for that.
So this question was submitted by my dad, Jim. If you had a zoo, but could only pick 5 animals, what would they be?
Monkeys, giraffes, hippopotamus, zebras, and penguins.
So you don't have an elephant in your zoo?
Nah, they're kind of boring.
Ooh.
An elephant's boring, but a giraffe is
just
tall.
Have you ever watched giraffes? They're actually pretty entertaining.
No, we don't have zoos here. I've never been to one.
I agree, a giraffe is a staple to the zoo, but giraffes smell so bad.
Yeah. So do penguins.
I mean, my list is similar to yours in some ways and
You
slightly
need
different.
monkeys.
I think you need
number
either
one.
a monkey or a gorilla. Monkeys are more playful than the gorilla, so monkeys make sense. I agree with a giraffe because giraffes are a little bit different. I also agree with a hippopotamus because
They're so cute.
you need a hippo. But for me, a zoo has to have a lion.
Oh,
It needs a
I kind of
feline.
forgot about those.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
need a
you're right.
lion, and I want a bear in my zoo because bears are playful and
like grizzly bears.
either a grizzly
Oh.
bear or a black bear or a polar bear. I don't know which kind of bear I
Okay, yeah.
want, but because bears do stupid things and it's funny because bears are kind of like people in the way that they move. But then I miss the capybara, and the capybara was my favorite animal at the zoo.
That's because it just basks in the sun.
Well, and they sing and they can swim and they're a giant rodent.
Yeah.
What about just a monkey zoo? So like just 5 different types of like monkey or gorilla, whatever. Just like all different types. That would
Of
be so
primates?
much fun.
So you have like a gorilla, an orangutan, a
And then
chimp.
you have like those cute little orange ones. I don't know what they're called. They're tiny and they're orange and they just jump
yeah.
all over. Like little
like the
spider
spider monkeys.
kind of, but not
Yeah.
quite.
But
like
yeah,
a monkey
you need
zoo.
to have like the chimpanzee size. You need those tiny
Mm-hmm.
spider monkeys. You need a big orangutan or gorilla, like different shapes and sizes.
Because who doesn't like monkeys? So that's like obviously the prime type of zoo.
Yeah,
It is the primate.
they are the primates.
Yes.
I think I accidentally said prime ape there, but I know the term is primate for anyone trying to correct me.
What about you?
I'm struggling to think, because I love a good monkey. I'd like to go hang out with like the chimps, but I also would feel so bad caging the monkeys. So if I convince myself they're like disenfranchised monkeys from like a terrible place, then like I would have probably monkeys, chimps, gorillas,
All the
and then
performance
maybe I'd
monkeys.
have like some lions because it's a lion basically. And then the final animal, I kind of want something big and gross. Like I kind of want like a rhinoceros or a hippopotamus or just something disgusting and smelly that lives in a swamp.
Like an alligator or a crocodile?
They're not.
No, they're not as gross though. Like I think of like a hippopotamus or a rhino as like a big pig.
Yeah, like something that just like lays in its own vomit.
Yeah,
or something
like-
disgusting.
Exactly.
Totally.
Like because like lions are so majestic and chimps are like these playful creatures that are basically us, and then you just have this smelly, disgusting creature that weighs like
Hyenas.
7,000
Hyenas
pounds.
are pretty gross.
They're unnerving to
They're
look
very
at though.
dirty.
Yeah, hyenas, because they look skeletal, they're so skinny, and
Yeah,
they
they're
look at
weird.
you in that weird way, and they make that noise. They make a really that cackle is bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like
oh.
you don't need any birds or reptiles. Like we went through the zoo and it was just kind of like, yeah, we'll get through to all these birds to get to the actual like important animals.
That's true. Nobody cares about a bird in the
No,
zoo.
it's like a flamingo. Great, it's pink. Move on.
Can I be that guy that changes the question?
What's your change?
What if you had to have 5 animals, but they were like fantasy, like they weren't real animals, so like giant tarantulas or something? What would you do your 5 then?
5 fake animals? Okay, so I'd take a hippogriff.
Ooh,
was mine.
Dang.
Guaranteed. Well, I think everyone would go to the hippogriff from Harry Potter because it seems awesome. I'd want a dragon, and as I've said previously, I don't like Game of Thrones fire-breathing dragons. I'd want like Imaginary Story or like Dudley the Dragon, like a big friendly dopey dragon,
Yeah.
because those are way more fun.
Unicorn? Pegasus?
Oh, yeah.
A Pegasus over a unicorn. Not a huge unicorn fan. A phoenix.
Phoenix?
Yeah, that was
pretty
my
cool.
other one. That was the obvious choice, I thought.
Yeah, because phoenixes like to catch on fire, and they're pretty cool. And another fake animal.
Sphinx. So they always have riddles.
What is a sphinx? Not.
Sphinx is a naked cat.
No, like it's a mythological.
Oh, you're talking those ones.
Yeah, it's like what they based
The Cheshire Cat on.
kind of, yeah. It's like
Oh.
you need to
Oh,
tell.
okay.
It tells you a riddle. It won't move until it gets out of the way.
Oh, that would be fun.
Oh, my third one would be an Oliphant.
A what?
Or my fifth one, an Oliphant from Lord of the Rings.
Oh.
They're like
oh.
elephants, but with like 3 trunks.
Ooh, that would be weird.
Did they have multiple trunks or did they have multiple tusks?
Was it tusks? Oh yeah,
Yeah,
no, it was
tusks.
3 tusks in 1 trunk. Sorry, yeah, and they're massive.
Yeah.
I think my fantasy zoo would be a Pokemon zoo. And I would I'd have a Pikachu, I'd have a Psyduck, I'd have a Snorlax. I'd have, was it Mimic that just becomes all the other Pokemon?
Ditto.
Like, or Ditto.
Ditto.
Yeah,
Ditto.
that's my cheap trick because then I have technically all the Pokemon, but he just fools everybody. The last one is,
How is it not
Bonita.
Cubone for you?
oh yeah, of course it's Cubone. Yeah, sorry, I would have got there, but it would have taken a lot of stuttering and saying because I knew it was out there. Yeah, Cubone.
Well, like the Fantastic Beasts movie didn't bring up much to the table except really interesting new mythical animals.
That's true. Pretty much every animal in that movie was interesting in some
Yeah.
way. So just like,
Oh, the
Just ignore the
thief.
plot.
I like the thief animal. I almost want to replace one of my Pokemon with a thief.
Oh, the little
Yeah, the little branch
Like-
guy that hung out in his
yeah,
pocket.
yeah.
He was so fun, and he'd get
Wait,
me
the
rich.
branch guy? I thought he was the little blob. What are we talking about?
We're Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah, I thought the one that stole things was the little black, like,
Oh yeah,
duck-looking
there's
thing.
like the
Oh yeah, the
mole
duck.
one.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
the duck. No, you're right. The duck thief.
He
Yeah.
looks like
He
a
was
platypus
so
almost.
cute.
Yeah,
He
kind of
would
platypus,
just,
and
like-
he's just like a niffler or something like that, and they go and gets all the gold and jewels.
Mm-hmm.
My answer was literally just going to be, like, all the creatures from, like, Fantastic Beasts, because they're just so cool.
Well, that's everything we have for you today. Thanks again for listening. And as always, if you have any ideas or questions to submit to the show, please email them to onpointlesspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks. Bye.
What about you?